Welcome in to BKL Nightly. Happy Thursday. We're just 2 days out from this Bills divisional round against Denver. I'm Rachel Liebert. Caleb Carr is with me tonight. Thad Brown will be here later in the show, but we're here to bring you most things you need to know ahead of this game. All of the info, right, Caleb?
All of it. Everything to do with the game.
I think this is the last one of the week before the game, and then you guys will break it down post-game.
Yes,
so
it is.
We got to give you the goods before
Saturday's matchup.
Yeah. As we always do, we start with injuries, and we will get into that right now. We'll start with the guys who have been officially ruled out, Jordan Poyer and Max Hairston, and then quite a few guys on the injury report today as well. Start with good news, though, for Bills fans. Josh Allen was in full. He does have a foot injury, a knee injury, and then the right finger also was listed on the injury report today, but he was full back-to-back days, so good things for him. Damar Hamlin on IR still, but did practice in full, is questionable for Saturday. Curtis Samuel also on IR, full but is questionable. Ty Johnson, questionable. Terrell Bernard, questionable. Ed Oliver, also IR with that practice window open, also questionable. And then we've got a few good signs. These are all guys who were limited today but do not have an injury designation. AJ Epinesa, limited. Dalton Kincaid, really good for the Bills offense. Hopefully he can have some production this weekend. He was limited as well. Matt Milano, limited. Matt Prater, also a big one. Right quad and right calf injury, limited today. Did not practice yesterday or earlier in the week, and then did have a full day of practice, now back down to limited. So we'll see how that one goes. And then Greg Rousseau and Shaq Thompson, both limited today as well. So, Caleb, any takeaways, any names that stand out to you from this injury report today?
I think the biggest one that a lot of fans are looking at is Matt Prater. I wouldn't read too much into him being limited or even him not playing earlier in the week. I think he's fine. I think if there was any concerns about him not playing, we would have heard from McDermott on that. I think this is all just precaution. I mean, he's like 40-something years
41,
old.
Yeah.
He's getting up there, and this is like the third time that he's aggravated that quad. Yeah. So I think they're just like, you need him for the playoffs. Let's just limit him. Let's rest him as much as we can, and then he can go out there and he can do what he needs to do on Saturday. Josh Allen, he's a tank. So it's like tough to get nervous about him when it comes to injuries. But when you have a guy that is listed with 3 different injuries, it can get complicated. It can get scary because now, I mean, let's just stick with Matt Prater. Well, he doesn't really get hit that much. But let's say Matt Prater, you put him out there. Theoretically, the only thing he can re-hurt is his quad because that's the only thing that he was hurt. Now he can hurt something new. Obviously, anyone can hurt something new, but the only thing he can re-hurt is his quad. Josh Allen can go out there and re-hurt any of those 3 things.
His whole body, honestly.
His entire body can get re-hurt.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit scary. And then as you mentioned, Dalton Kincaid, especially with some of the injuries at wide receiver, him out there would be huge. I think he's another one that he'll play. He's definitely going to play, and him being limited is more of a precaution than anything. Yeah,
going back to Prater, I completely agree with you with him, his age. I mean, he said it before that he doesn't recover as fast as he used to. I think the DNP, not practicing, then being in full, I don't think there's too much to really read into that as far as just him getting the rest, like basically a vet rest day for him. Yeah. And Josh Allen, same thing. He's a tank. He's not going to not be out there, even though I'm sure Bills fans like yourself are pretty concerned about it, but I don't think it's not. It's a fact that it's not going to stop him from being out there on Saturday. So mostly good things from that injury report. As always, I can't. What's today? Thursday? It feels like a Monday. As always, yeah. The Bills are, of course, traveling to Denver, and it's not often that teams have to really worry about altitude when you're traveling on the road, but of course, Denver is nicknamed the Mile High City, so they got to worry about the altitude. It's 5,000-ish feet above sea level, which is a mile, so, that kind of checks out.
Is that why? Okay.
What do you think Buffalo sits above sea level? How many feet?
Do you know it in your head right now?
I said it last night on air. That's the only reason I know this.
400 feet.
600. So it's not that bad.
I was pretty close.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
So with this,
that's a big difference.
That is a big difference. And oxygen, a little bit different over there in Denver. So yesterday, Deion Dawkins talked to the media about how they prep for that and kind of get themselves ready for dealing with that oxygen change when they go to Denver.
I've been running on the treadmill in the, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called the altitude chamber. Like, we have an altitude chamber here, and Will has been on my behind with running on a treadmill every day, which I hate, obviously. But I've been doing that with Will, and we go in there every day, and I'm in there running like I'm on one of them Nike commercials, like with the mask and stuff on. But the whole oxygen thing is like, it's just like if you ever seen it, it's just like a room, but the whole thing has like, it's like pumping air in it, almost like a hyperbaric chamber type of thing. But I guess it's for the altitude. But the guys have been in there, like that's been a part of our routine like this week. So we've been in there and just grinding and, beating ourselves up in the oxygen chamber.
Now, in my research last night, I discovered some people say that you can feel the oxygen change. Some people say you can't. Do you think this is a serious concern? Not maybe even concern, but just a serious thing that the Bills need to be aware of, I guess, going to Denver and being in such a different climate?
I think it's definitely something you have to be aware of. It's definitely something you have to be ready for. But in today's world, I don't think it's any different than a Miami team or a Florida team coming up to Buffalo and playing in the snow, or even the Bills going down to Miami and playing in the heat. It's just something that you have to be ready for. You have to prepare for. But in today's world, I mean, he just sat there and talked about it. The amount of technology that these athletes are provided with now, the amount of, you have these people who focus on their nutrition. You have someone that focuses on their blood, someone that focuses on their oxygen. You have someone looking at everything to do with these athletes to help them prepare for this. I don't think in today's world, obviously going to Denver, it's home field advantage because you're at another team's stadium. And obviously I do think that the altitude helps a little bit in Denver's favor, but I don't think it's nearly as much as maybe 20, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good, I honestly didn't even think about, Buffalo snow being a big climate factor to these other teams or going down to Texas or going to Florida or wherever that may be. So honestly, that's a really good point. I wasn't, concerned about this, but hearing Deion Dawkins, he's a big guy. He might want to think about these things, but like you said, I don't think it's going to be a huge concern either. And it's just kind of one of those things that comes with home field advantage for Denver, and they'll take it as it is. But I think Buffalo will be prepared, like you said, with all the technology that Deion Dawkins seems to feel like he's running in a Nike commercial. So
yeah. It's definitely one of the better home field advantages. Like if you're like a Texas team, but you play indoors, which I believe both the Cowboys and the Texans do, then being in Texas isn't really a home field advantage. Yeah. But for Miami, they're out in the open, they're out in the heat. Same thing with Buffalo, they're out in the elements. So I do think that it's one of the better home field advantages. But with the amount of stuff that you can do to prepare, I don't think it's as big as it was a decade or two ago.
Yeah. Well, Denver has the home field advantage because they are obviously the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Bills are the number 6 seed. And Caleb, words are really hard for me today. Maybe you should be in this seat for me.
Just keep trucking. You got it.
It's been a long week. I think the Saturday game is just throwing off every single day for me. So every single day has been different. But Denver's the number 1 seed. However, the Bills do bring a unique advantage to the game. Thad Brown was out in Orchard Park yesterday, got to catch up with some of the defensive guys on a different approach that they bring to the game that could be useful on Saturday.
Spend any time on social media checking out the different film analysts and analytic guys on the NFL, and they'll tell you that the Bills not only change and disguise their coverages as often as anyone in the league, but they do it very effectively, a big reason why they beat the Jaguars. Spent some time today talking to the Bills about what makes all those disguises work. And as you might imagine, it's about experience, not just in the NFL or in the defense, but with each other.
Putting different guys in different positions, making sure people talk so you hear that voice, making sure you understand who you're working with and what type of coverage it is.
If you know your job really, really well, you got a lot of experienced guys, you know what I'm saying? If you know your job at a high level, I feel like you don't have to think so much about your own job. You can just kind of play free, and that means maybe doing things that you don't usually do, which will give the quarterback a different look.
When you first start out, it's harder because obviously you have to worry about what you're doing, what the guys around you are doing, and then being able to then disguise that look. That's kind of the last step of it to an extent. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult thing to do.
Everybody being on the same page, just continuously talking to each other. Even when you think somebody knows the call, just still talking just to make sure they know. It's just a group of smart football players playing together.
You got guys that have just been in a lot of different situations, from Shaq to Trey, you know what I'm saying, to Poe, you know what I'm saying. So just having that experience out there is huge, you know what I'm saying, and we'll make plays because of it.
Shaq Thompson also gave a lot of credit to the coaching staff for the way they prepare the Bills and the trust they show in this defense. He said, quote, "They really stress us in practice on calls and stuff like that to make it harder in practice than it is in the games."
It is now time for the BKL Nightly Roundtable. We've got Thad Brown out in Denver, made the trip this morning, getting ready for Saturday's divisional matchup, of course. Caleb Carr joining me as well. And we're going to get right into our first topic here. Is Ed Oliver going to play? What are our thoughts? Thad, we know he's questionable on today's injury report. I'll let you go first with this one.
So there are a number of clues building here to where I think he might play. Number one, watching him in practice on Wednesday, he looked fast, he looked strong, he looked like a guy who could be on the field. The other thing is the Bills required all photographers not to record any video of Ed doing individual drills. Now, the defensive line guys have been a little conservative all year long, but this was different. Clearly, whether he's playing or not, I think the Bills want to make sure that the Broncos don't get any more clues than they possibly can have. But I lean, thinking about that he is going to play. And then now that he's questionable, look, if the Bills can get 15, 20 snaps out of him, they don't have a ton of great players on the defensive line right now, especially a tackle. Ed Oliver at 60, 70% might be an improvement. So right this second, I'm leaning towards he plays.
Well, before I heard you say that he's getting these snaps in at practice, I was honestly leaning towards him maybe not playing, just because we know he hasn't been healthy all year. And while he was dealing with the biceps injury, then he had the meniscus injury in rehab. It seems like he is obviously not the most healthy version of himself. I think if the Bills get past this round and make a push to the Super Bowl, I think it's maybe more crucial for him to be healthy for that game rather than this one. But you don't know if you're going to have that game, and Ed Oliver could be a difference in this game to make it to the next round. I'm still kind of leaning to maybe him not playing, but now that Thad, you say that he's been practicing and you're kind of thinking maybe he's looking a little bit better, it does maybe account for something. But Caleb, what are your thoughts on if Ed Oliver will play?
Pretty much everything that Thad said. I think he's going to be out there. Thad pretty much took what I have in my notes app word for word. I said I think if he's 67, 70% healthy, I think that's the baseline. I think if you're kind of sitting in that range, then you push him out there. I do think it's probably for a limited number of snaps. He's probably not out there for his full regular season healthy workload. But I think just having him out there for just a handful of plays here or there for those big third down situations, plays like that can make a huge difference in this game that I do expect to kind of come down to the wire. So I do think that this is just too big of a stage for him to not be out there. And you look at the field right now, a lot of times you say, oh, the Chiefs are going to be in the way, the Bengals, the Ravens, whoever it is, and you're like, can the Bills get to a Super Bowl? Right now, you're thinking there's no reason why they can't go to a Super Bowl. They can beat any of these teams, and so I think Ed Oliver's like, well, I need to be out there for this.
Rachel, the other point I want to make, too, with Ed Oliver is that with a pectoral injury, and I think with a torn bicep injury, and I think more to the point, because of the point of the season we're in right now, where the Bills are doing very little contact, most of their practices are walkthrough, it's not like the Bills can get a great look about how healthy he is. I think you figure out where he's at in terms of his general health, and if he's good, you probably put him out there on the field. Now, this is me trying to, of course, play MD on BKL Nightly as a observer, not as anyone who's ever practiced medicine for even a second. But all those things to me kind of point to, I think he's going to play.
All right, we'll move right into our second topic now. How badly do the Bills need to be better in the run game? Caleb, I'll let you take this one first.
Offensively, I think it's very important that James Cook has a good day and that this Bills rushing offense has a very good day. That Broncos secondary is good. They're one of the best in the league. They have some of the best passing defenders in the league. And listen, we've seen Josh Allen win all year long. But with how thin this receiving core is right now, I think you want to stick it. You want to stay on the ground. You want to be as conservative as possible and get James Cook's legs going. Defensively, however, I don't think it's as important. This rushing group for Denver, they're nothing insane. They have some decent rushers. Bo Nix can use his legs. RJ Harvey's okay, but they're not insane. And listen, for whatever it's worth, Bo Nix currently leads the NFL with the most passing attempts in the regular season. He led most passing. He's comfortable passing the ball. He gets comfortable. So I know it's only a second-year quarterback. This is only his second playoff game ever. I know you kind of want to force him to pass it because he's not comfortable in the playoffs, but he is comfortable in the pocket, and he can beat you if you let him.
Yeah, I agree with you. Going back to the Bills offense, you saying this, they need to be better on the ground. The Bills put up 79 rushing yards against the Jags, and that worked. But you also now have a lack of receiving production, and I think James Cook, he had 46 last week. He has to be better than 46. I think here forward, if they make a push to the Super Bowl, James Cook has to put up more than 46 rushing yards in order for that to happen. The Broncos, as Caleb and I kind of talked before this, they have the second best rushing defense in the league, and then the last 6 weeks, it's kind of been consistent. There was one game that they gave up, I think 143 against the Commanders that we talked about, but it has been consistent. So I think this might be a challenge for James Cook, but I do think he does need to be a little bit better, and I think the Bills' rushing offense in general needs to be better, just like I said, because of the lack of some of that receiving production that we saw last week with Brandon Cooks and with a few other just injuries, I guess, outside of that. So, Thad, what do you think? Do you think the Bills need to be better in the rushing game?
The point about the receivers being hurt is a big one because it's a little less ability to rely on that part of the game. Not that the Bills receivers in general are great and that Gabe Davis and Terrell Shavers and Josh Palmer all have their role, but these are not star players on the team right now. So you might be able to get away without it, but it does make it a little more important for the Bills to make something happen on the ground offensively. And then in this game in particular too, you don't want to give the Broncos a chance to pin their ears back with that great pass rush and get after you. I will say defensively, I'm starting to wonder if the Bills really need to even worry about the run defense. I think they might be able to get away with giving up $130, $150 every week, in part because the NFL obviously is more of a passing-based league, but look at who's left in the playoffs in the AFC. The Broncos with, like you said, Bo Nix, the #1 attempts in the NFL. The Patriots are certainly a Drake May-driven offense. The Texans don't have much of an offense. It don't matter. The defense is that good. So whether they defend the run or not, I don't know if it's even a big deal. Just do what you've been doing against the pass, and it might be enough. It's not like if it was Baltimore, it's different. Baltimore is happy to just walk in, run the ball 75 times for a gazillion yards and beat you that way. None of these teams want to do it. Even Jacksonville last week, when they were getting 10, 15 a pop, it really felt like they were pulling teeth to keep running the ball. So I think because of the matchups that are left in the AFC, the run defense might not be a big deal at all.
We've got our last topic here that we'll discuss. Do we think it's a bigger concern? What is the bigger concern, rather? The replacement at safety or the replacement at wide receiver? Like we said, a lot of injuries coming out of last week. Caleb, I'll let you go first. What's your bigger concern ahead of this game?
I think the safety replacements and the injuries in the secondary are what concern me the most. As we just said, the Bills have been kind of weak at wide receiver all year. So a couple of guys missing, although Gabe Davis, Terrell Shavers, those are big guys in my opinion. Although they just kind of play a smaller role, they are important pieces. I think Josh Allen he's been doing it all year. I think he continue to find a way to get it done. And then also, if you don't have those receivers there, you don't have that passing game there, you can lean on James Cook. If you don't have a good pieces in the secondary, there's not really anything to lean on right now. Maybe if Ed Oliver's out there healthy and he's playing full, you can lean on him a little bit more. We've seen some better play from these linebackers as of late, so maybe you can lean on them, but there's not really that option B if the safeties aren't playing well, if the secondary is not playing well. These receivers aren't anything crazy, but they are decent. Courtland Sutton is a pretty good receiver. He's one of the better ones in the league. So for me, my bigger concern is at the safety position.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Just looking back, Jordan Poyer goes out last week, and Jordan Hancock's the one that comes in, and he gets exploited for, it was a 34-yard and a 36-yarder, I think, for the two big pass plays. And then Damar Hamlin, I mean, we don't know if he's playing this weekend, but we haven't seen him be healthy. Even when he was healthy, he's not, the most productive guy on the field. So for me, like you said, it's with the secondary. And even though, we've kind of talked about this Broncos offense, they're a good offense. They're kind of middle of the road. They're pretty comparable to Jacksonville. I agree with you that I think if the wide receivers, I'm less concerned with the wide receivers because, as you said, they haven't been a dominant group all year. James Cook is there to maybe pick up some of that slack. And I think the Bills, their offense has other options to go to. I think the safeties don't. I mean, quite frankly, I think it is a concern. And just like I said, I don't think Jordan Hancock or Damar Hamlin is going to be that answer in replace of the production Jordan Poyer has had, especially these last few weeks. Thad, what do you think?
I'm with you guys, and this is really an easy topic, I think, in terms of A or B. The reasoning, I think, is different. And, Caleb, you bring up a good point about, if the receivers don't work, you can lean on the run game. Let me take that in a little different direction. You can still make the receivers work Because your quarterback is Josh Allen. He can do one of those scramble for 15 seconds and then whip the ball downfield, and at some point someone's wide open. I don't care who it is. Me and you guys could find a way to catch a couple passes if we get 15 seconds to be open. So from that point of view, your quarterback can save your receiver problem. But at safety, and I think you guys are right too, that the caliber of player between Jordan Hancock and DeMar Hamlin is very much in question. But the problem there is if those guys make a mistake, it's out the gate. It's in the end zone at 6 points, and that's it. They are the safeties, right? If they have a problem, there's no one else there to pick them up. So that for sure to me is the bigger concern.
All right. Thank you, Thad, for joining us for our roundtable. It's now time to get into our drumroll, please, predictions. Who, by the way, who's winning? Me.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, we'll start.
We can move on.
We'll start with Thad's prediction. He sent us one from way out in Denver. Let's see what Thad thinks.
Broncos calling cutters their defense. They're top 2 in yards allowed, third down, red zone, just about everything. But they've only played 6 offenses all year that are in the top 12 in EPA per play. 4 of those offenses were in a stretch between weeks 11 and 17. In that stretch, Broncos defense was 17th EPA per play allowed, so it was averaged. I think there's legitimate reason to doubt those elite credentials. And I think the Bills might have a better chance to run the ball this week. Broncos defensive line goes a lot lighter than Jacksonville's #1 run D, even though Denver is #2. Broncos are 10 pounds lighter, 1 inch shorter per man. May not seem like a lot, but over the course of the game, it could accumulate. Broncos offense isn't a whole lot. The offensive line is great, and Cortland Sutton's very good, but this is an average unit in general. Yes, they might run the ball on the Bills because everybody does, but the Bills' pass defense should be pretty successful once again. Big concern that Denver had last week off, and the Bills have accumulated certainly a number of injuries. They could be getting some help back, but Buffalo is definitely not anywhere close to 100%. Too many of the matchups, though, to me, favor the Bills. This is just a bad team for Denver to be facing. I like Buffalo. I like them pretty comfortably. Give me the Bills 33-21.
33-21. That's a pretty big margin.
Difference.
I think the altitude might be getting to Thad a little bit out there. I'm kidding. He does make a lot of good points. The Broncos defense is good, but I don't know how good. I think the numbers might be inflated a little bit. Do you want to give your prediction first? Or you want me to just go right into mine?
You said you had an interesting one, so we'll save yours for
I don't know
last.
if it really is interesting. Let's not call it interesting because that might overhype it.
I think
but you can
called
go.
it interesting.
You
but
can
okay.
go first.
What is my prediction? Oh, 27-20. There it is. Buffalo Bills. Here's the thing for me. Thad kind of said it. I mean, I think Thad said, I don't know if you used the word below average. I don't know what the word was, but there's the Bills or the Denver defense, their rushing D is second in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if those numbers maybe look better than they have been the last few weeks? That is a valid argument. I think that's kind of what Thad is thinking here. While Denver has a better rushing D, yes, they can shut down James Cook. The Bills have the better passing D. They could shut down Bo Nix, but the Bills have Josh Allen. Take those two out of the equation, the Bills have Josh Allen. And for me, I think that's the difference. I think the Bills' offense is going to be better than Denver in this game. And like I said, take James Cook out of the equation, take Nix out of the equation, Josh Allen's left. And I think that's going to be the difference. So I'm going for the, 18th week in a row, picking the Bills, 27-20. Caleb, what you got?
I'm also picking the Bills. I would like to say, though, that the Bills have Josh Allen argument. It's a good one, and it's one that we'll make every week. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to work every week, though. I don't know if it's enough to work every week. But I do have the Bills a little bit lower scoring than you and Thad. I have 23-16.
Okay. Explanation, please, for the 16.
So I think there will be a safety in this game.
Okay.
Now, the Bills I have the Bills at 23, so it could be the Bills, potentially. The Bills could potentially get it.
Either side.
Either side could get it. But I think more likely is there's some mistake that happens. The Bills get pinned deep. Josh Allen's, I think it's a close game at this point. Josh Allen's trying to do a little bit too much, and there is a safety involved. I also think there's going to be a defensive touchdown. The Broncos are not very high in defensive takeaways. Mm-hmm. Their defense doesn't take the ball away that much, and their offense doesn't really turn the ball over very much either. So that doesn't really, neither of those two things go in my favor. But I do think that something's going to give. I think the Bills, especially if Ed Oliver is back in that lineup, the Bills have a chance to really disrupt Bo Nix. he's a good quarterback. Thad doesn't really like him very much, but I do think that he's a good young quarterback.
Yeah.
But the young is the big part. This is only his second game, second playoff game. The first one was against the Bills, and they blew him out. I do think that there's a chance that he gets disrupted and there's a pick six or maybe even a fumble. Maybe he gets sacked and there's a fumble and that gets picked up. Maybe Ed Oliver. Maybe Ed Oliver comes in, forces a fumble.
Or forced a fumble week 1.
He forced the fumble week 1 against Derrick Henry. Maybe they take it to the house this time. Who knows? Maybe Trey White picks it up and he takes it to the house. Imagine.
Maybe. You know what?
Imagine Trey White.
You know what? Maybe this is a Keon Coleman breakout game. We're throwing around the maybes.
No, it's not. That's listen, anything's possible other than a Keon Coleman breakout game. I know, I agree with you. We're just adding on to the maybes of. But if it were to ever happen, this would be the game because Gabe Davis is not out there. Terrell Shavers is not out there. Khalil Shakir is the only guy out there.
I mean,
are there any wide receivers on this team right now that you trust not named Khalil Shakir? Wide receivers, not tight ends. Wide receivers.
No.
Like fully trust.
I don't think so. I
think I trust Brandon Cooks a little bit.
Brandon Cooks is going to
He's the one I trust the most. Guy up, but I don't think we've seen enough from him yet to fully trust him in a divisional round playoff game. Like we've seen hey, random plays here or there, he can make it happen. And we talked about him a lot last week after his performance in Jacksonville. Like he played very good and he looks really good. Yeah. I just don't know if I've seen enough to really trust that it's going to be consistent yet. And outside of him,
Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman's the next guy. It's not
Keon
much.
Coleman's the next man up.
There's not much going on there.
Keon Coleman breakout game incoming.
No.
Hey, I hope he had a 36-yard catch last week. I think it was the one. It was the one. So maybe that was a preview.
Keon Coleman did something.
Maybe that was a preview. Next time, maybe we'll take it to the house. We'll see. All right, that's going to wrap up BKL Nightly on this Thursday. Caleb and Thad will be back here with your post-game show on Saturday. But for now, for Caleb, I'm Rachel Liber. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.